Snow covered the rooftops of Boulder, Colorado, on Christmas night in 1996, a sacred night when millions of American families gathered together. But in the early morning of the next day, just as the sun was rising, an emergency phone call shattered the peaceful atmosphere, turning the house at 755 15th Street into the center of one of the most mysterious cases in American criminal history. A 6-year-old girl with shining blonde hair and a radiant smile that once captivated audiences on child beauty pageant stages disappeared from her own home. What happened afterward would become an unending nightmare lasting nearly 3 decades, filled with countless questions, conflicting evidence, and shocking accusations aimed directly at the victim's own family. Welcome to the Case Files, where we delve into haunting true crime stories to uncover the hidden truths behind unsolved cases. Today, we will explore a case that, even after nearly 30 years, keeps all of America asking, who killed JonBenét Ramsey, and why has the killer never been brought to light? In this episode, we're taking a deep dive into the infamous case of the murder of Little Miss JonBenét Ramsey, a name etched deeply into the collective memory of a generation, becoming a symbol of the painful failures of the justice system. Part 1. The Golden Girl and the Family in the Sun. JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born in 1990, the youngest daughter of a wealthy entrepreneur family in Boulder, Colorado, a peaceful city at the foot of the Rocky Mountains, known for its prestigious universities and tranquil lifestyle. Her father, John Ramsey, was the CEO of Access Graphics, a billion-dollar software company with enormous income, while her mother, Patsy Ramsey, was the 1977 Miss West Virginia, a beautiful, elegant woman with refined taste. The Ramsey family lived in an 8,600-square-foot mansion with 3 floors and a complex basement full of nooks and crannies, a house later turned into a deadly maze in a mysterious criminal case. JonBenét was not just an ordinary child. She was a true little beauty queen, with dozens of titles from children's beauty pageants across the U.S. Her radiant blonde hair, bright blue eyes, dazzling smile, and magnificent costumes made her stand out on every stage, with Patsy always behind the perfect image, styling hair, doing makeup, and choosing outfits for her daughter. But behind this glittering spotlight, rumors circulated that Patsy placed excessive importance on image and accomplishments, turning JonBenét into a tool to satisfy personal ambition, a detail that later became a crucial piece in the investigation. However, in the eyes of neighbors and friends, the Ramsey family appeared to be the model of an American happy family, wealthy, successful, beautiful children, all living in harmony. But that perfection was just a thin mask, ready to shatter on that fateful Christmas night. Part 2. Christmas Night and Unusual Signs. On December 25, 1996, the Ramsey family hosted a Christmas party at home, with many close friends present. The evening was joyful. The family ate and chatted together. According to Patsy's testimony, around 9 p.m., John Ramsey carried JonBenét upstairs to put her to bed after a long day. Burke Ramsey, JonBenét's 9-year-old brother, was given a plate of fresh pineapple by his mother before bed, a seemingly harmless detail that later sparked intense controversy. Everything seemed normal until the clock struck 5:52 a.m. the next morning. Patsy Ramsey hurriedly called 911 with a panicked, trembling voice, reporting that her daughter was missing and that she had just found a ransom note 3 pages long, handwritten and left, right on the kitchen stairs. The call was recorded, and forensic experts later discovered a strange detail. After Patsy thought she had hung up, a man's and a child's voices were heard in the background. However, the Ramsey family insisted only Patsy was awake at that time, while John and Burke were still asleep. The ransom note was the first piece of a complicated puzzle. It was unusually long, 2.5 pages written with a marker, with a tone at times threatening and at other times nearly polite, demanding exactly $18,000 in exchange for JonBenét's life, warning the family not to contact the police if they wanted to keep their little girl forever. The amount, $18,000, was no coincidence. It closely matched a Christmas bonus John Ramsey had recently received from his employer, information only insiders or very closely watching the family could have known. Yet the strange thing was, despite the letter's threat not to contact law enforcement, Patsy immediately called 911, a completely contrary action to the letter's demand. Even more suspicious, while most ransom letters in criminal history are brief and to the point, this letter rambled unnecessarily with contradictory wording, causing linguists later to suspect the writer might have been deliberately staging the scenario. Part 3. Horror discovery and chaotic crime scene. The first 2 police officers arrived at the scene around 6 a.m. after receiving Patsy's call. They entered the house, began collecting evidence, and searched for JonBenét, but found no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no footprints in the snow outside, nor any trace that a stranger had broken into the house. Officers initially believed it was a kidnapping and waited for a ransom call, but no such call ever came. Minutes ticked by, and tension inside the house grew thicker. Around 1 p.m., a detective asked John Ramsey and family friend Fleet White to thoroughly check the house again for any overlooked clues. As they moved room to room, John Ramsey eventually descended into the basement, a small dark room the family called the wine cellar, hard to find and little known, deep within the mansion's labyrinth. Then John Ramsey's desperate scream echoed. He had found JonBenét. The little girl's body lay in the dark basement room, covered with a thin white blanket. Her mouth was sealed with duct tape. Her neck was tightly strangled with a rope fashioned into a sophisticated killing tool called a garrote, often used in executions or torture. One end tied to Patsy Ramsey's paintbrush handle. Her hands were loosely bound above her head, and her body was stiff and cold. In a heartbreaking panic, John Ramsey carried his daughter's body upstairs and placed her on the floor in front of everyone. This was a fatal mistake because it contaminated the crime scene, disturbed forensic evidence, and made subsequent investigation much more difficult. But it wasn't the only error. The Boulder police, a small force with little experience in murder cases, failed to secure the scene immediately, letting many of the Ramsey family's friends enter freely, touch objects, clean up, and even scrub the kitchen, all of which erased or obliterated critical evidence. These early mistakes laid the foundation for one of the worst crime investigations in American legal history. Part 4. Autopsy and Accumulating Mysteries. JonBenét's autopsy report, released on December 27th, raised more questions than answers. The official cause of death was asphyxiation due to strangulation combined with severe skull trauma. She had a cracked skull over 8 inches long on the back of her head, indicating she was struck hard with a blunt object, possibly a flashlight or similar item, causing serious brain injury. Notably, forensic doctors could not determine the exact order of wounds, whether JonBenét was struck before or after strangulation. Some experts argued the head blow caused immediate unconsciousness, followed by strangulation. Others believed the garrote was used first to torture or restrain, with the head strike as the fatal blow. This ambiguity created 2 entirely different lines of inquiry about motive and character of the crime. Additionally, the autopsy recorded sensitive details. JonBenét's genital area had signs of trauma and had been wiped with cloth, though there was no conclusive evidence of rape in the traditional sense. Forensic experts did not rule out sexual assault, especially since the paintbrush used in the garrote was suspected to be involved. Circular marks resembling stun gun burns were found on her body, suggesting investigators believed she might have been restrained with such a device before being killed. Crucially, Semen and skin samples taken from JonBenét's underwear contained unidentified male DNA, not matching any Ramsey family member or known suspects. This DNA became key evidence defending the Ramseys and the only lead pointing to an external intruder. Yet Boulder police doubted the intruder theory. They targeted the Ramsey family for suspicion, igniting a fierce media and public backlash. Part 5. Suspect Number 1. The Ramsey family. Just 2 days after JonBenét's body was found, local press began naming John and Patsy Ramsey as primary suspects. Journalists, amateur psychologists, and even some detectives publicly accused the family on television, citing evidence that this was no kidnapping, but a meticulously staged internal murder. The main reason police suspected the Ramseys was the strange ransom letter. Handwriting experts compared it with Patsy Ramsey's and found many suspicious similarities, though not conclusive. Moreover, the marker and paper used were found inside the Ramsey home, indicating the writer was inside the house and took time leisurely writing the long note, an illogical act for a kidnapper fearing discovery. A linguist named James Fitzgerald analyzed the letter and highlighted many oddities. The tone swings between threatening like a professional criminal and polite like an apology letter. Deliberate spelling mistakes seemed designed to mislead, and the crucial $118,000 amount was too precise and coincidental. Fitzgerald affirmed the letter was not written by a kidnapper, but staged by someone in the family. Part 6. Defense, Doubts, and Final Puzzles. Amid relentless accusations from media and public opinion, the Ramsey family consistently denied all charges. They hired lawyers and independent investigators and appeared on television defending their name, emphasizing they had no reason to harm JonBenet. Many questioned, if innocent, why did they move out of Boulder, remain silent to the press for so long, and frequently avoid police contact? For over a decade, DNA from blood on JonBenét's underwear was stored and compared, but matched neither family members nor any primary suspects. The mysterious DNA shifted public opinion, forcing police to reevaluate the intruder theory. Experts like Lou Smith and many investigators noted the Ramsey home's complex layout made it very hard but not impossible for an outsider to enter, act, and leave unnoticed. Theories involved people like Gary Oliva, a convicted sex offender living nearby, or others who frequented Boulder at the time. Even a prisoner who confessed writing a letter claiming responsibility had inconsistent stories, and police found no physical evidence linking him to the scene. A CBS expert team reconstructed the timeline, examined the scene minutely, the ransom letter, and witness statements. They controversially proposed that Burke Ramsey, JonBenét's 9-year-old brother, might have accidentally caused her death during a sibling fight, hitting her with a hard object. A scar on JonBenét's face was confirmed as caused by Burke a year earlier. Official prosecutors never charged Burke criminally, believing it was manslaughter or an accident, with the parents panicking and staging the crime scene plus ransom letter to mislead investigators. The Ramseys have repeatedly denied this scenario in all public statements and court appearances. Part 7. Intense investigation and failed trials. The case repeatedly stalled amid conflicting information. From 1997 to 1999, the Ramsey family was regularly called to interrogate, submit handwriting samples, face pressure from Boulder detectives, and eventually moved to Atlanta. Boulder County Grand Jury reviewed the case for over a year, but did not issue formal charges due to insufficient evidence on motive or concealment. In 2003, unidentified DNA from JonBenét's underwear was entered into the FBI's national database. Testing confirmed it did not belong to the Ramseys, a significant development easing media pressure on John and Patsy. In July 2008, prosecutors informed John Ramsey no family member was a formal suspect. Yet, in 2013, a grand jury indictment surfaced, revealing that in 1999, the Ramseys had been considered for prosecution on charges of child abuse leading to death. The records remained sealed for over a decade. The Yonton court noted signs of complicity, but fell short of criminal thresholds. An $80 million defamation lawsuit against Boulder police for libel and slander was eventually confidentially settled. Investigators continued re-examining the scene multiple times, analyzing emergency calls, the ransom note, and new forensic data. But every theory had gaps. Boulder remains one of the most heavily criticized police departments in U.S. history. Part Wait. The enduring mystery: who killed JonBenét? Nearly 30 years on, the JonBenét Ramsey case stands as a symbol of secrets never fully uncovered. The Ramsey family has no criminal charges, the unknown DNA at the scene remains unidentified, and the intruder versus family murder theories continue to clash in the international media. Many believe Boulder police lost the golden hour to preserve intact evidence. This failure corrupted the case from the start. Speculation remains on when or if that mysterious DNA will match someone, whether new witnesses will come forward, or modern forensic advancements will finally exonerate JonBenét. Conclusion and haunting message. JonBenét died just 6 years old, leaving immeasurable grief in headlines and hearts. This case stands as a warning. Right or wrong, truth is often overwhelmed by rushing public judgment and mass opinion. What is the real truth? How many theories swirl around the killer's motive, and how many questions remain unanswered? Even now in Boulder, every Christmas season, white flowers quietly appear at the Ramsey home, a message to justice. Do not let this little angel suffer in darkness forever. The JonBenét Ramsey case forces us to ask ourselves, is there a way to protect children from dangers lurking even in homes thought safe? When our justice system has flaws, do we, through suspicion and misinformation, unintentionally victimize a second innocent party? Reflect on this deeply, for this is not just a true crime story, but a lesson in vigilance and compassion amid the storm of information, doubt, and prejudice.